least. But a lot of good came out of it. I mean, this show, I believe, and a lot of other shows came out of this year. Time with Tarver, that was one of my favorite shows to watch on the content to watch. And I think we all have learned that we all have a voice as a result of this year. We one of the things that we promised that we would talk about was before we close this show out, is that are we going to lose the Zoom?
No, it's still okay. On.
All right, good deal. One of the things that we promised that we would discuss was, some of the big political stories, and I know there's a couple, there's plenty that happened, but there's a couple really discussed. I found it amazing that Louisiana just lost a congressman-elect, young man, 41, Mr. Leflow there in Louisiana, just won his congressional race, first time congressman-elect, and he won't, in these next couple of days, he won't get sworn into this Congress because he lost his life to COVID. It is, and that's a telling story, a congressman losing their life to something that a lot of people took for granted initially, and thought this was something that we could politicize. I think everybody knows now this is not to be politicized. This is not about your rights versus whatever. This is about public safety and awareness. We talked about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We talked about these incredibly stupid no-knock warrants, and how they disproportionately, not disproportionately, they only affect Black people. There was, they're finally firing these monsters that harmed and violated and killed Miss Breonna Taylor. They're firing them. Something similar happened in Houston, Texas, where these police lied. They provided false information to get their no-knock warrant, and they went and killed a couple, older couple, white couple, and they killed them. They were drug dealers. They definitely had drugs. They were petty drug dealers. It was not, no big weight, as they call it, in their household. And the police went in, guns a-blazing. They had a tip. They said on the warrant that they had all of this drugs and all of this money, and they went in, guns a-blazing, and they killed this elderly white couple. And they're charging that Black police officer, that sergeant of 2 decades of police service. He's being charged with murder, with a homicide. They're lying on that, and they're treating him like, he never existed in their service. So I think we know that these no-knock warrants have just not been executed against really any profound. These things are never wrong when they're coming to other people, but the Blacks, we tend to get the brunt of that. One of the biggest stories that I wanted you to talk about with us is these political female firsts. We talked about these amazing African-American female mayors, but can you talk to us about how proud you were as a Georgian for Georgia to take it over the top and win the first African-American and Asian-American female vice president of the United States of America, and the amazing work that was done by none other than Miss Stacey Abrams, registering over 800,000 people to vote. Those political stories, I think we get lost on all of the stuff. And then I want us to close out discussing Black Lives Matter from our own standpoint and our own viewpoints, from a psychologist and from a lawyer standpoint, who both happen to be Black.
Absolutely. Just happen to be. So, I'll go back, and I think I've shared this before. Everybody probably knows how I feel about this, but, Stacey Abrams was robbed of a governor position here in Georgia. When the election occurred, our current governor, Brian Kemp, was actually Secretary of State at the time, and he continued to serve in that capacity of Secretary of State while he was running for governor. And that was a conflict of interest. He should have never been allowed to do that. But so during that time, a ridiculous percentage of people were purged from the rosters in terms of being able to vote, had no idea. had no idea their names had been dropped, had no idea their polling places had been changed, had no idea that there had been redistricting. None of this was communicated. And also that people had gone to vote and then were later told that their votes did not actually count, and there would be just any number of ridiculous signatures and addresses and all of these things that we know just leads to voter suppression. And all of this was done right before that key governor election. And so Georgians are, just to be frank, pissed about how that happened. And so Stacey Abrams is why we consider her to be such a hero. And why we have no idea that no doubt that she is going to win this next bid is because she did not quit. So right after, and actually during that election, she still was working on these voter suppression issues. She went to court. She filed, right? So she was out in the streets while Governor Kemp is smoozing. Stacey Abrams was out here trying to make sure that when the next election occurred, that all those people whose names had been purged, all those people whose votes were invalidated, their voices could be heard. And then, because she's such an amazing person, she said, I'm gonna do you one better, and I'm gonna work together and get a team of superheroes, and we're gonna register 800,000 folks to vote. Take that. So we are, when I tell you, immensely proud of her. And as a Black woman and as a woman who has shown up and been told like, hey, you're not supposed to be here, who has had negative comments, all of the commentary about Stacey Abrams during this time was about her weight and her hair and how she dressed. None of it was about her articulation skills, her degrees, her political stance, her efforts that she wanted to bring to Georgia. There's a lot of things that Georgia would already have had in place if Stacey Abrams was our governor, like the fact that we were still on the books, not even having certain laws in place to protect our citizens of color when there are acts committed against them because of their ethnicity. Like that wouldn't even be an issue if Stacey Abrams would have been governor. And so we are just so proud. And she said, you know what? I could take a position in Biden's campaign. I know they're looking at me because I'm just brilliant. Why wouldn't they be? But she said, that is not my race to win. I have work yet to be done. And for that, when I tell you proud, I am immensely proud of her for finishing what she started here in Georgia. And that, that leads into Kamala Harris as our VP. Like we were hurt, I think, that Hillary Clinton lost, but we understood. And truthfully, if we're honest, there wasn't as much work done to get the votes that were needed. And there are a lot of people just had a bad taste in their mouths about Hillary. Kamala Harris, there's some bad taste we had in our mouths about her as well. But one of the things that she did do is she addressed that. She addressed that and she said, look, here is the plan. Here's what we're going to do. And here's what I've been doing. And so for people that weren't on board with her when she ran for president, they got on board with her as President-elect Joe Biden's VP, because she is an outstanding choice. And she is brilliance. She is poise. You have to be so thoughtful as a Black woman about how you respond to stuff. And she's a multiracial woman. I don't want to, not acknowledge all of her ethnicity. But you have to be so careful about what you say, because you don't want to come across as the angry Black woman, the angry Asian woman, whatever it may be. They most oftentimes are going to refer to her as Black, because that's what we do with people when they're multiracial and they have Black as a part of their heritage, African-American as a part of their heritage. But she has to be so careful about how she responds. When she was doing those debates, you saw her, you saw the looks, and you were like, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. But you're not going to say it, because what's going to happen is people will focus on that you said that and they'll miss everything else you said. So she had to eat a lot. And I think women of color, we have to eat a lot. And that is exhausting. But she held up under pressure. we're so proud of her. We're so proud of what she's going to do. And I know that people are probably very unhappy about the fact that now not only is there going to be a woman in the White House, but she's going to be a multiracial woman. But the rest of us are just recognizing that this is just a reinstatement of where we should have been in the first place. And so she is going to be for all people. But more importantly, she's going to be my people. And so I'm very proud.
You know, I'm extremely proud as well. You know, to both of them. You and I talked at length about how powerful both women are and how qualified and competent they are, as all women are. To watch what Stacey Abrams has done has been incredible. To get the buy-in that Kamala Harris has done for Joe. I mean, she literally, he had a bang-up team to include guests of this show, attorney Trey Baker and all of the surrounded with it. He just was surrounded with an A team. But that A team went to the street to work. That A team went to the grounds to work. That gap that we saw in 16, where it almost felt like a coordination, this 2020 team came out and actually put the boots to the ground, and they went and worked in a pandemic. Speaking of people socially moving during a pandemic, we know the story of all stories for this year, even above COVID, was the epiphany, the awakening, the reckoning of African Americans. As we have literally had all that we can take. And that's why we have an absolute knee-jerk reaction every time now. Recently, a Grammy Award-winning actor, and Grammy Award-winning singer, jazz musician, and his partner, their child, was attacked at the Arlo Hotel there in Soho in New York City. This man has worked with Beyonce and Jay-Z. The spouse has worked with Beyonce and other notable artists. They're really exceptional in their own right. Again, a Grammy winner. And this gentleman and his son were just at their hotel and came into the lobby. And this lady, who was yet to be named, because I have no idea how you can tell me that New York City police won't tell us what this woman's name is. There is no protection for her. We don't protect criminals when they do criminal activity. If you go and rob a bank, we're not going to say, well, we don't want to release the name of the bank robber because the bank robber is afraid that something's gonna happen to them. It was horrible to watch it on the video that the father posted, but it was incredible and heartbreaking to watch it on the hotel's feed to show how she attacked this baby. She attacked this baby because she, in her head, did not see a baby. She saw a black boy. And she attacked that family when they said, hey, we don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything to show you. It's a cell phone. Now, granted, there's probably all sorts of creepy stuff on the cell phone to see this person, how she reacts, because she's probably got some of the creepy stuff, but that doesn't mean she gets to indict, prosecute. She also got this guy who's the quote unquote manager at this hotel that I will never stay in. And I'm looking, all affiliates of this hotel I'll never stay in. She got him to collaborate her indictment, collaborate her guilty. She found him guilty and then executed him. She went through and punished him. She found her own justice and went after this kid and was absolutely unequivocally wrong. Violated this baby's rights. It took his father to, like an animal, knock this animal down off of her. But if you see the video that's been posted from the hotel, and then this manager stood shoulder to shoulder with her to help her. This woman was not even in the hotel, a guest in the hotel anymore. And to come and find out that her cell phone was in the Lyft or Uber ride that she had took, and the guy brought it back. That was damning And even that's why I'm so proud of what those women did on July 13th to create the Black Lives Matter movement. That movement rings loud and clear because this year we have had enough. And not just this year, not just, so people went and marched and protested even in the Cabot. We've changed the name from Jefferson Davis. Can you believe we literally had a traitor? It would be like naming Hitler or, Adolf Hitler Way in New York City. We had Jefferson Davis in New Orleans was a highway. And today it was changed in New Orleans because tomorrow the name is gone. Businesses have to change their name. There's a parish in Louisiana called Jeff Davis Parish. They took the Jefferson off to make it sound quaint, Jeff Davis. This country has to have an awakening with its Black citizens. You have to pay the debt that's owed to its Black citizens. You got to do like Dr. King said. You got to be true to what you put down on paper. If this country says to all its citizens that you're equal, irrespective of your gender, your race, your color, your creed, then it has to do it. But we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. And we were endowed by this liberty by our creator, not that no one here has created that. And so Black Lives Matter is taken off. It is moving aggressively forward. You have to make bold proclamations. You got to say things like defund the police. And you know what we're talking about, and I don't have to play semantics with you. I was in law enforcement as a prosecutor, but there's no reason that a police is the first call for mental health crises. The police can come also, but there's no reason that guns are drawn. A doctor should be here. A doctor like you should be there. So what was your take on these profound moments, and how proud were you to see our people, even in a pandemic, standing up so they don't have to lay down anymore?
Well, I got to tell you, that is, first of all, I'm proud, again, of the way women have stepped up, Black women have stepped up. I'm proud of our young people and how they have stepped up. But the reality is, we have to get to a point where we say we're tired, where we have to expose and demand that there is action that is taken, that we no longer allow people to live in this space of comfort, knowing that racism is prevalent, alive and well, infused in a lot of the things that we have access to, or it denies us access to, including our government, being able to get loans we were talking about earlier, being able to even have adequate food supplies in our neighborhoods, being able to access adequate housing, adequate healthcare, right? So there are things that are in place that we know are infused with racism. We know that there's discriminatory practices that happen, and we can no longer allow people to be comfortable because we don't want to bring it up. And so what BLM did is it said, no more. We are holding people accountable. We are demanding that the governments put an end to this police brutality. We demand that that police officers have to wear their cameras and keep them on. And we have seen where they'll turn them on after the fact, or they'll say that there were issues with the cameras when something happened, and you have other people recording. And thankfully this father, you were right, that's a child. And if you heard the little pumpkin speak on Good Morning America, like, he really sounds like he's probably 10 on a good day. Like he was so confused about why this woman who he had never met would attack him in that way. And Black Lives Matter has said, no more institutional racism, no more statues of these Confederate, and as you said, like, why are we honoring people who are traitors to our government? Like, why are we honoring these people? What are we actually saying to you when we keep these statues up, when we keep these names as schools? These are institutions of learning. And we have Confederate soldiers' names on buildings of institutional learning that we say are for all of our people, all of our kids, to be able to have access to a quality education. And that's simply not true. And it is making people reflect on their privileges. And we know that people don't like the word racist. People don't like the word white supremacy. People don't like the word privilege. It makes them feel uncomfortable because it calls them out on some of their behaviors. And you don't even have to use that label, but I can definitely name you all the behaviors that you're doing that is causing that label to be utilized. So, and they've also created this space for us to have allies. Because what I don't want is for people to think, and this is what always ends up happening, or what frequently ends up happening when we talk about Black organizations, is that it's us against them. That's never been the case. African people, we're a diunital people. We are a union of opposites. It is never just either or for us. It is both and always has been. We can both call you out on your crap and have people that look like you be allies. And that's what Black Lives Matter also has done. It said, hey, for you allies that want to join with us on dismantling some of these institutions that are in place, come with us, join us. But you got to show up with your money and you got to show up with your power and you got to show up with your privilege, because you are going to be the gatekeepers. You're going to give us access to places where sometimes we're denied. And so we need for you to speak in the room as if we were there, in the same way you speak in the room when we're not. You're on mute.
No, I said that's powerful. I think that's spot on. Well, what are you hoping for 2021, Dr. Tarver?
One, I'm hoping that people get their stimulus checks. Right. So I'm just where the money resides. Give these people their money. People are struggling. Folks are being evicted. People are having their homes go up for foreclosure. Businesses have been shut down. We were talking the other day about all of the businesses that you saw around you just closing. Like, places that were not able to stay afloat during this pandemic. And even though some of us are like, oh, I've seen all the memes, $600, you can purchase your own American for the low price of, $1 a month. But, essentially, we want to be able to give people any kind of resources we can. So I do not make light of 600 for anyone, because that 600 could be the difference between somebody getting something to eat and somebody not getting something to eat, somebody being able to stay in their home for another month or someone being homeless. And so give these folks their money. That's one, what I want to see. Two,
that point, while you have that point, I want you to put a pin in that one.
Okay.
Come back to it. No, go ahead. Okay. Yeah. So listen, I watch CNBC exhaustingly. I watch Fox Business News channel. I watch Fox, but I watch Fox Business News, and I'm constantly watching the market. I'm constantly, interested in which companies are good, successful brands. Do my own research, but to watch the analysts today talk about 2021, to watch some of these analysts, these all millionaires, by the way, and maybe even some billionaires, but to watch these out of touch, completely lost, detached from reality people talk about the American citizens and how this little money that our government has given them, this little bit of drop in a bucket that our government has given the American people, how, people got to get up and go out and work. We're literally talking about hopefully a once in a lifetime event, a once in a century event that has hit us. It hit us in 1919. Now it's hitting us now in 2019 and in 2020. This is a once in a lifetime event. It needs a federal response. It needs a new deal. It needs a humongous attack back. This thing has attacked us. We've lost. There's been 19.6 million Americans as of right now, 19.6 million Americans with COVID, diagnosed with COVID. 19.6 different Americans, not, oh, this person got it twice. 19.6 different Americans out of the 330 million Americans. 19.6. 300, we're almost at 350,000. 340 something thousand American human beings, men and women, children, have lost their lives to this thing. And these people on CNBC and Fox Business News, they are talking as if they're people walking around like, let me hold something, mister, put something in my hand. American people are suffering. The rent, the American people owe $25 billion in back rent. $25 billion. Who's going to pay that back to landlords? Who's going to pay that back to these apartment complexes? That means that we are about to have an influx of bankruptcies in this country. The American people have taken it on the chin too much for these fat cats. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a day that the American people, just like we've had this awakening and this reckoning with Black Lives Matter, poor Americans. When Dr. King died, he said, poor Americans. It was the poor. The war on poor has not changed. And the fat cats who sit back thinking we are just, our Social Security numbers, we're just something for them to, we're just numbers. Where 19.6 million people have gotten sick. Now they're saying there's a more aggressive form here in California and in Colorado that was found in UK. There's an even more aggressive form. 19.6 million, 340,000, almost 350,000 American people have died. Now, if you think that that's not enough to get people motivated, and you won't even give them, you're giving them $600 measly, and then only 150 million Americans are going to get that. $2,000 won't even heal all of the problems, but there are people, there are men who were champions of their family. They can't even leave the house to go out and find work because they know that COVID will kill them. The jobs that they had aren't even jobs anymore. I was going through Walnut Creek, a really beautiful high-end Rodeo Drive kind of shopping experience in Northern California. It looked like a ghost town. It looked like a ghost town. And until we hold these I don't know what poor people can keep voting for these people that we have in Congress, in the Senate, who thinks $2,000 is too much to help the American people. But that's what I wish for in 2021, that we get a better batch, and I hope Georgia pulls through. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know how passionate you are about that. Georgia has impressed me, and I have no doubt in my mind that Georgia's going to come through in these Senate races. So we in 2021. So the other things, right? The other things I want is I want a leader, a federal plan, an actual plan. I want there to be protocols that are put in place so states don't have to figure it out on their own. I want our leaders to be empowered to be able to make decisions that are healthy. I want for there to be science behind decisions, and I want for us to utilize all of these creative means that we've learned throughout this time and apply them well to all districts, because as we know, some of our school districts get less resources than others. So let's make sure that we're offering opportunities for all school districts to be able to utilize the benefits from those pods and that free internet and those laptops, and having people who are retired educators to be able to come and help them when their parents are working, right? So that our churches and our community organizations and our fraternities and sororities get together and help, and we support our communities, that we have that leadership in place that will allow people to be able to do that, and people able to have the funding that they need to be able to do that. So that's another thing that I would like to see happen in 2021. You're on mute.
I can't, I think the best thing that happened this year, the worst thing that happened to me this year is not being able to be, in my daughter's space. That is the most powerful moment a man can have. I don't know what it is about little girls, but, I've been a parent, but Lord, being a father of a daughter is just the greatest thing in the history of mankind. It is the blessing amongst blessings. But I'm so proud of I believe this show, of what we can do, what it can mean, even more so than us actually having the intestinal fortitude to do it consistently, to do it about the real purpose of helping people. Even more important than that is the fact that this show has so much potential going forward. This show will grow going forward. We